Yeah, fine, I'll do it. Just empty out your pockets. The best way to bet the NFL is win totals. In this win projection series, you will get to see the logic behind Big Ryan the Fat Guy's win total projections and how you can win whatever contests you decide to enter for this 2018 NFL season. Fat Guy, New York Giants, they went 3-13 last year. What did you think about their season?
That's terrible, Chuck. They were terrible. And Ben McAdoo got fired, and rightfully so. The New York Giants last year were a complete tabloid magazine. There were a lot of ho-hum efforts from the team, and the coaching was suspect. It was just a really un-Giants-like season. They were absolutely terrible.
I'm kind of disappointed because I was really excited to see what haircut Ben McAdoo unleashed on the league this year.
He was an extra for Matt Dillon's character in There's Something About Mary. And it looks like he's going to be reprising that role in the next movie because he doesn't have a job coaching the NFL right now.
Speaking of There's Something About Mary, it looks like he did his hair with cum. Now, head coach Pat Shurmur is taking over this team. He's had 2 seasons in the past, not very good record at 10-23. Fat Guy, can he turn it around with the New York Giants?
They're putting every foot forward in strengthening this offense for Pat Shurmur. I mean, he did a really good job as the offensive coordinator last year for the Minnesota Vikings, so he was due another chance. Will it work out? Only time will tell.
And Mike Shula stepping in to coach that offense. Wasn't he the guy that coached the Dallas Cowboys against the Little Giants? Sorry, that was O'Shea. Yeah. How about Mike Shula?
Mike Shula, he's the son of legendary coach Don Shula. I mean, believe he was in Carolina before. I think Pat Shurmur is going to have a lot of his hands on this offensive blueprint. So I think it's more to do with Shurmur than anything.
I wonder if Icebox will be there for some game planning. How about on the defensive side of the ball? James Bettcher is going to step in for his first season as a defensive coordinator for the Giants.
I thought he was going to step up and take the Arizona Cardinals job, but he didn't, so he's out. And here he is in New York. And I think it's going to be a nice change because New York's been pretty stagnant on defense, and they're going to bring in like the high-flying expertise of James Bettcher that he used in Arizona.
It's a shame because that roster was so good last year on the defensive side of the ball, and they just wasted it.
Not so good, but it was pretty good, and it was completely wasted.
Now let's look at notable player additions. They added running back Saquon Barkley as well as Jonathan Stewart.
Barkley's a highly touted prospect. He wasn't my favorite running back in the draft, but he is going to be damn good in the NFL, and it's nice to pair him with Jonathan Stewart, who came from Carolina, along with the Giants GM, Dave Gettleman. He also signed Stewart, so there's going to be a good veteran-rookie pairing, I believe, between the two of them.
This might be a stretch considering this a notable signing, but they also brought in wide receiver Cody Latimer.
Okay.
Okay is right. At the offensive line, they added in left tackle Nate Solder, as well as guard Patrick Olame, and guard Will Hernandez in the draft. Power run specialist.
I like Will Hernandez. That's a nice pick. You're going to add, he's a road grader, and that's definitely going to help if you become a run-centric team, especially since Eli Manning is going to drop off just a little bit. So you want to keep your team as a run-centric team, especially with Saquon Barkley, a really exciting rookie prospect. And the Nate Solder signing from New England is definitely a big addition to this offensive line that struggled when they formerly had Eric Flowers of Algernon in before him.
Yeah, the addition of Soldier, Hernandez, and Patrick Olame is going to be a huge boost for guys like Saquon Barkley. On the defensive line, they add in Josh Morrow and Kerry Wynn.
Okay.
At linebacker, they add in Alec Ogletree as well as Kareem Martin.
I like to pick up of Alec Ogletree. He'll easily be the best linebacker in this New York Giants grouping. It's kind of nice because they've really had some poor linebacker play in the past, 10 years maybe. But they still have Mark Herzlich. I think they do.
They sure do. At cornerback, they add 3 players in William Gay, B.W. Webb, as well as Curtis Riley.
If they think that these guys are going to replace the production of Dominic Rodgers-Cromartie in his prime, they are sorely mistaken.
I would have to agree. They've lost Dominic Rodgers-Cromartie. They also lost Jason Pierre-Paul on the defensive line.
Well, you know what it was? They asked him how many fingers he was holding up, and he couldn't tell them. So that's why they thought he maybe had a head injury. So he was on his way to Tampa Bay, and they're definitely worse for the wear in losing him.
And at wide receiver, they've lost kick return specialist Dwayne Harris, as well as veteran wide receiver Brandon Marshall.
Yeah, they lost Dwayne Harris, who's more of a return guy. Brandon Marshall didn't do shit for them last year, so no love, no lost, I think.
Let's go over this roster. At quarterback, it's still Eli Manning's team. They didn't even really bring in anyone to back him up. Davis Webb, Kyle Lauletta, a 4th-round pick.
We get it. They have Eli Manning. They're living and dying by him. He's still a 2-time Super Bowl MVP, and his brother is one of the better quarterbacks that ever played. I mean, it is what it is. They're moving to a run-centric game. Everybody knows this. So I'd be more curious about the run game and less about Eli Manning. He just can't turn the ball over.
They dropped a ton of draft stock into Saquon Barkley. They also added in Jonathan Stewart. They still have Wayne Gallman and Paul Perkins. Do you think Barkley's going to play every down?
Not every down. I think it'll be, could be a 50-50 with Jonathan Stewart, with eventually 75-25 between him and Jonathan Stewart. They could sprinkle in some Gallman or some Paul Perkins, but I don't really see it. They're going to try and give Saquon Barkley every opportunity to shine until he proves them wrong.
At wide receiver, they have Odell Beckham Jr. and Sterling Shepard. They also added in Cody Latimer. They still have Roger Lewis. Not much else after that. Travis Rudolph. Pretty much nothing else after that.
Shepard and Beckham are obviously the stars of this wide receiver group. Beckham just seems to have his head in other places during the football season, though. He's not one of my favorites, but he is still very, very talented. So expect Beckham to lead this wide receiver group. He can be more of a distraction than a positive. So I want to see how his attitude is. And maybe a contract here, because maybe he's looking to get an upgrade in money, or they're looking to get rid of him, something like that. So he should probably be on his best behavior.
Now, on the offensive line, the two guys we know are going to start, are most likely going to start, are Nate Soldier and Will Hernandez. At center right now, they have Brett Jones penciled in. At right guard, they have John Jerry, as well as Patrick Omame and John Greco. And at right tackle, penciled in, is Eric Flowers.
Eric Flowers for Algernon. They've been trying to trade him, and no one would give him a mid-round pick. So that'll give you an idea of how the league thinks of former first-round pick Eric Flowers. He's definitely a weak spot on this offensive line. I'm excited for Will, don't call me Aaron Hernandez, as well as Nate Solder for this offensive line, especially for Saquon Barkley. He'll get some lanes with those guys in front of him. I'm really not sure how the rest of the line is going to shake up. I don't think John Jerry, Patrick Omameye, maybe John Greco. It's hard to say. They're all kind of fill-ins. And at right tackle position, it's shaky at best. I could see Eric Flowers losing that job pretty easily.
And then tight end, they have a nice 1-2 punch, a little versatility here. Evan Ingram, even though he graded out poorly, according to some websites, he played excellent for a tight end in his first year. Very, very productive. An 85 Rhett Ellison, an excellent blocking tight end. These guys will be a decent 1-2 punch for New York.
I think so. And for a rookie season, Evan Ingram, you're entirely right. He produced. He totally did. And he'll be a part of that passing attack. That's maybe why they're lighter on wide receiver, because Evan Ingram can be such a dominant player.
Let's move on to the defense. Let's start off with the defensive line. Damon Harrison, Snacks himself, is the main guy on this line. Otherwise, it's Dalvin Tomlinson, Kerry Wynn, Robert Thomas, Josh Morrow, Kareem Martin, third-round pick B.J. Hill, fifth-round pick R.J. McIntosh.
He didn't really name a bunch of pass rushers, which is really troubling when you're talking about the defensive line. Snacks Harrison takes up a lot of space. He's a good run stuffer, but he doesn't really get there. And you didn't name a guy that can. So losing Jason Pierre-Paul is a really tough one for them.
Yeah, the only real pass rush threat they have is Olivier Vernon, who's listed as the Sam linebacker. They also have Avery Moss, Lorenzo Carter, who they added in the third round of this draft, Derek Matthews, and then inside on linebacker, Alec Ogletree, BJ Goodson, Ray Armstrong, and ya boy, Mark Herzlich.
This is another weak grouping, headlined by Alec Ogletree. I'm sure Olivier Vernon's going to play on defensive line. I'd be really surprised if there was some move to linebacker. But hey, what do I know? I'm just a fat Canadian guy. So we're going to see how they shake up, but this front seven is weak as a whole.
At cornerback, they have Janoris Jenkins, who's still a premier corner in this league.
Oh, the rabbit, JJ, I love him.
As well as Eli Apple. They've added in Curtis Riley. They have Teddy Williams. They have B.W. Webb. They brought in William Gay.
Okay,
they brought in
you're going to put me to
Goodwin.
sleep, man. This is a pile of shit, too. Eli Apple played about as bad as you can possibly play at cornerback last year. He gave up. I know they're giving him a fresh slate, but I can't. How could you trust him? How could you possibly trust him? Janoris Jenkins, another guy with a Madame Cleo haircut. He's definitely the star of this cornerback grouping, but I'm just not sure how well they're going to play. This was once a strong defense, and there are a lot of names thrown around here.
And at safety, they are highlighted by an excellent player in Landon Collins. They also have Darian Thompson and just a bunch of other Jags right behind him.
How did every team pass on Landon Collins? I'll never know. He was a Defensive Rookie of the Year candidate in his rookie season. He wasn't nearly as good last year, but neither was the team as a whole. I think he's a star safety. I really, really like Landon Collins. Darian Thompson, too. He's not a bad player either. At safety, this is really a strong point for a really weak New York Giants team, seemingly.
Now, what's the strength of this roster?
I'm going to say safety and running back. And running back, maybe I'm jumping the shark just a little bit. But I'm going to have to believe in this Barkley system because they have added a lot of road graders in front of them. And with Jonathan Stewart, this could actually work out. So I'm going to say running back. I'm going to believe the hype just a little bit, even though Barkley wasn't necessarily my favorite running back in this draft.
And what's the biggest weakness of the Giants roster?
I think their front seven as a whole is pretty weak. I mean, you do have Damon Harrison, you do have Olivier Vernon, you do have Alec Ogletree, but this really could be a better grouping, and I think they're going to get exposed a lot this year.
So going into the 2018 season, Big Ryan the Fat Guy have the Giants graded out as an even C team.
Yeah, average. It seems like they've upgraded to such, and maybe they played so badly last year that they can only play a little bit more on an even keel this year, especially with new coaching staff. Average sounds about right.
And we've hit it right on the head. They have a difficult schedule. We have them winning 7.5 games. They're over under 7.5 games. I'm going to be redundant, but this is definitely a no bet.
Correct, sir. Another no bet. I know we sound conservative, but we ain't riverboat gamblers. We go by the numbers. We're just trying to make you money, DK.
Hit the like button if you agree with Big Ryan the Fat Guy. Hit us with a comment below with how many games you think the Giants will win next year. And subscribe for more NFL projections.
Dude, it's 3 fingers, not a fist.